All right, today I got in a little Twitter war with Jacob Ogles, and I'll explain this. But let's start with Peter McCullough, and I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I'd like to share a link with you. He's an internist, a cardiologist, epidemiologist, holding degrees from Baylor University, University of Texas Southwestern Medical School, University of Michigan, and Southern Methodist University. He manages common infectious diseases as well as cardiovascular complications of both a viral infection and the injuries developing after the COVID-19 vaccine in Dallas, Texas. So he's well published. He knows what he's talking about. He's dedicated his life to epidemiology. I think that we should listen to him and others when they have something to say. And what he says here is that the COVID shot directly killed more Americans than COVID itself.
600,000 deaths, but just under 600,000 deaths from the vaccine. We can say that, hands down. What was the number? Do you by chance know the number of deaths from COVID within the same time period?
The number of deaths right now on the books for COVID are at 1.2 million. Now that's every death that happened with someone testing positive. When there's an analysis of did they really primarily die of COVID, the answer is it's about 10% of that. So it's roughly 120,000 Americans died directly of COVID. Now, one could say that if it was in the context of someone near the end of life, they were robbed of a few days or a few months of life, and that's a fair argument. But our government encouraged death certificate coding that was so broadly inclusive that even things that were completely unrelated to COVID or COVID pneumonia, if they tested positive, was counted as a COVID death. And we now know the COVID test, the PCR test, can remain positive for many months after the initial infection.
So with anything, we need to say, is this true? Is this not true? But without a doubt, we should listen to people. And that's what's not happening today, is that people are just being completely silenced. Scientists, experts are being silenced. And that's the concern that I have. So then I posted this thread. I said it's a strong argument that Peter McCullough is making that the vaccine has caused 4.5 times the deaths than COVID itself. And my question is, why do we never hear debate about the efficacy of these treatments? The National Institute of Health has bought scientific consensus. That's what's happened. And now why does this relate to me? Because in Congress, what we need to do is defund these bureaucracies that are out of control, that lack any kind of accountability. We need to take a look, and the American people need to take a look through Congress and evaluate everything that the National Institute of Health has done. And I can tell you that what it's done is it's bought scientific consensus so that the fake news can then propagate misinformation and say that everybody agrees that climate change this, or everybody agrees that the vaccines are safe. We know these to be factually false time and time again. And what's causing more of an issue than anything else with this, I mean, there's so many different problems with this, but what's happening is people are losing trust in our institutions. And that's causing a big problem that people don't trust anybody. And that's a big part of the mental health crisis that's happening, actually, because we don't know who to trust anymore. The American people, we the people, are being gaslit with our own taxpayer dollars. So I say here in this tweet that the NIH has bought scientific consensus with taxpayer dollars, and we need to defund the NIH and prosecute Fauci, prosecute him for crimes against humanity. This is horrific what he's done. And then Jacob Ogles, this is interesting. Jacob Ogles is a writer for the Sarasota Herald Tribune and Florida Politics. And he says, weird how most of us personally know at least one person who died from COVID, but most don't know anyone personally who died from the vaccine. I would say, generally speaking, that that's true. Most people do know somebody who's died from the vaccine. But then I answer him here. What you fail to see here, Jacob, is that the integrity of the discussion has been compromised. Now, he should know this. He's a journalist. The people are then easily manipulated with anecdotal evidence, which you happily provide. Now, you and other journalists instinctively fall in line with the narrative handed to you by people like Anthony Pedicini and their pay-for-play, Jacob Ogle's pay-for-play boss, Peter Sorsch of Florida Politics. They just simply run with the narrative. This isn't good, and I would challenge Jacob Ogles and anybody, whoever has had somebody die from COVID, ask if they were treated with remdesivir, because there were protocols in hospitals that were against the survival rate of people who had COVID. There is more to this story, and we can't just stop and pull back and say, well, it's all good. No, we need to have a thorough debate and discussion about all these issues. And if Jacob Ogles and other journalists were doing their job, there would be we would have a debate and a discussion with integrity, and we would listen to people like Peter McCullough. He's dedicated his life to this. He was well-renowned. Dr. Atlas and many other doctors, Jay Badiari, these people at Stanford, have stood behind, risked their entire reputation and their careers to getting the truth out. Now, why would they do that if there wasn't something that the American people need to hear? We do need to hear this, and I would challenge anybody who's just going to quickly throw out anecdotal evidence. That's horrific for a journalist to just throw out anecdotal evidence and not back things up with evidence. But that's what he's doing here, and I'm calling him out on it. And if he wants to have a debate, I will have a debate with him. He can bring his expert, I'll bring my expert, I'll do it directly with him, because the information, the debate needs to happen, discussion needs to happen, and we need to defund the NIH and prosecute Fauci.
I've known Eddie for 6 years. So my husband's worked here for 6 years, and then I came along a year after. But working for Eddie and just working for the school, I've never felt more like I have a family. And we come from where all of our family is up in Indiana. So for us, it's just, we pretty much live here because we just love everybody. And I have felt that love from Eddie. And I have felt that love from everyone here. So it's been such a pleasure and such an honor to work at a place when you have that constant support that you would need from family. So with being a teacher, there's a lot of obstacles and can be challenges. But one thing I noticed is every time that I would go to Eddie, and the person that he is, he cares about what you care about. So you always have his full attention. We were always supported. I always felt heard. And it's because of his patience and his gentleness is why it is a privilege to continue working for him. And I'm just honored to be here. And it's hard to find a male leader that has those qualities.
Lisette Bonanno. Did I pronounce that right? Bonanno?
Yes, that's close enough. That's good. Bonanno.
Bonanno.
Yes.
You know, quick little story. I was texting you, and I tried to send you a text, and it sent it to a friend of mine named Lisa, and it sent an emoji of a banana. Just.
Well, I'm glad she received it.
Yeah, like what? That's not. How did that happen? Anyway, Lisette, it's great to have you here. Thanks for coming and spend some time.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you're running. Why don't you describe the race that you're in and why you're in the race?
Okay, so I'm running for Florida State House seat, District 67,
Okay.
here in Tampa, and I jumped in the race after retirement from the military. I thought I was done, but it was actually a call from God. And I battled it for a year, but decided with the changes that I saw coming back from war, that it began to hit me pretty hard. I said, man, what I saw over there in Iraq and Afghanistan and growing up in Germany after seeing the aftermath of World War II, because they was still not, you know, in the early 60s. I was there in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And I was still running through the rubbles. And I'm seeing here like things were changing. Things were changing in Tampa and even with other states. And I think um, with what happened with COVID in 2020,
Hmm.
that it was an eye opener. I'm like, it's coming here.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it's coming here. It was just accelerating. It was already here. It's just accelerating. They're not afraid. Um, when I say they, the agenda, Marxist agenda, the socialism is they're being bold now. They don't care to stand out boldly, and
Yeah.
and began to suppress people with fear, and that's what you saw in 2020. So I'm like, wow, I saw that over there, and when Afghanistan fell into the hands of Taliban, and I remember that day, I said that this can happen here. This can happen here, and I know it will. And we need people that are well versed in these areas and can stand up and push back. Yes.
Let's talk about Israel first. Just your connections to and your thoughts on the things that are happening in Israel right now.
Yeah. Well, Israel, it's in my blood. I am Jew by blood. Um, I'm not Orthodox. I am Messianic Jew because I still believe in Jesus and the Holy Spirit
Yeah.
and am led with the Holy Spirit. But yeah, that's my point that I was going to next, because when 7 October happened of this year in Israel, first thing on my mind, it's coming here. Okay. That day will happen here because Americans are complacent. They're A lot of them don't know history. And if you see in the schools, and you own a school here, it's like you see that if you don't teach children their history and the truth about history and the truth about their constitutional rights, then they're going to fall into the hands of uh, the global agenda, which is to keep them ignorant and, keep them in fear. And we mentioned about the children, this is all affecting that generation to come and our children right now.
Yeah.
But what's happening is that they're really trying to take away their future wealth.
Yeah.
You see it right now. A lot of them are moving in with their parents. So yeah, Israel is. People need to open their eyes if they think, and it's kind of quiet now for some. Remember on 7 October, everybody was talking about it, especially the battle between the religions, and it's really not about that. It's about good versus evil,
Yeah.
and it's about terrorism.
I'm sorry for laughing because you say good versus evil, and that's just on the website that I have. The first thing I said, there comes a time when the country needs good people to stand up and fight against evil. Now, there's been people that have said, don't mention evil. That's not politically correct. Look, the truth is the truth, and it's going to reverberate, and then politics will catch up with the truth, and there's going to be like-minded people, like-minded patriots that will connect with this message because it is evil that is on the rise. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, we got to face it head on. And the thing about it is, I'm tired of people saying it's not politically correct with their definition.
Yeah.
And my thing is like they want candidates. They want people in office that are going to speak the truth and speak it boldly and not sugarcoat anything.
That's right. That's what we the people want.
Exactly.
No matter what the political consultants have to say about things.
Yes.
So I hear you talking about an agenda, and you're talking about the strategies that the enemy has, this evil that's against us. So I'm assuming that you're familiar with the globalist agenda 2030 and the Great Reset, and there hasn't been, I haven't heard of any candidates congressional candidates even mentioning the Great Reset when tyrants and the globalists are clear and bold in telling us what their plans are. I think it's incumbent upon us to actually listen and take them at their word.
Yes, and the people are looking for truth. They're looking for the truth and not misinformation or propaganda that they keep feeding the folks right now. And they need candidates to do so. And it's best to find candidates that are speaking boldly, like yourself and myself. And we know not only spiritually, but what's happening in front of our eyes right now with this globalist agenda. And the candidates probably aren't speaking about it because they themselves lack knowledge. They don't really know the information. They don't know the history. Or again, if they have had a lot of funding in their campaigns, whoever is funding them is probably has their list of things that they can talk about or not talk about. They're controlled, and that's one thing. In this campaign, I will not take dirty money from anyone, and I'm sure you will not either, because otherwise then you got to do what they tell you to do, and I won't. I'm like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I'm not going to bow down. So
That's
yes, this is really accelerating. It's really sad times, but at the same time, good times, because we know that Jesus is coming back soon. So the signs are there, but people need to wake up, and people need to get on the right side. We were raised on the right side. That's why we're running for office on the Republican ticket, because I chose the party that was closest to biblical principles. And I'm not saying it's perfect, because nothing is perfect. And but I know who I am, and the principles and the values that I have. And this is about really saving our district, saving this nation, and being that voice for the people. And we're doing that right now. But this is, like I said, accelerating, and people are still asleep and listening to the wrong side. You know, and we talked about this Israel, that day will come here. So Israel is a nation that is like first at everything. I mean, the technology, the security, and all of that, right?
Yeah.
And the enemy was able to infiltrate. Well, they chose, if you're the enemy, you're going to take a day that people are relaxed, asleep. And America's been relaxed and asleep for way too long.
Yeah.
And so that situation has opened up a can of worms here in Florida, and not in the United States. And you can see pockets of protests and rallies all over the place, especially in the district I live in.
Yeah, and Israel is certainly a microcosm, more than a microcosm, kind of the epicenter of the battle of good and evil. Jerusalem being the eternal capital of Israel, being the center of the center there. But what we're seeing in Israel is, again, it's good versus evil. And there's a lot of protests that are happening, and people are jumping right on into the fray and ignorantly standing behind evil. And a lot of times I can't necessarily fault them, because they've been trained and indoctrinated in this kind of mindset, this terrorist mindset.
Yeah. And, you know, right now, we do understand that our southern border has been compromised, all right? And I had a Vietnam veteran father who taught me a lot, was a historian, but was on top of the politics. And I, out of the 6 kids, was the one that was always focused on what he was sharing. And so when I see, he always used to say, think like the enemy. Okay, that way you know what the enemy's doing before they come at you. And so that southern border.
Yeah, I want to pause right there too. Think like the enemy. The problem is that most people don't. It's very uncomfortable to think like the enemy.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to be at ease and at home and be comfortable, pretending that we live in a utopian society where evil doesn't exist.
Right.
But what happened at Israel has to open our eyes. And I'm pulling up a tweet right now that a Palestinian religious leader on TV explains that the Palestinian Muslims have a religious duty to fight and kill the Jews. Kill them wherever you may find them.
فاقتلوا المشركين حيث وجدتموهم، يعني حيث لقيتموهم من الأرض. واليوم ما تطمئن النفس إليه من الفتوى أن فلسطين كلها ساحة معركة بيننا وبين يهود. ولذلك يجب علينا أن نحاول قتالهم بأي وسيلة نصل فيها إليهم في أي بقعة من بلادنا الطاهرة، رجاء أن نخرجهم منها إن شاء الله. الواجب علينا اليوم أن نقاتل هذا العدو المجرم طلبا لقتله أولا فاقتلوا المشركين حيث وجدتموهم وخذوهم.
Yeah.
This is what's being trained to Arab children and to kids here in the United States even.
Yes.
And they've just been given a pass either through moral equivalency, saying, okay, what the Muslims did wasn't good, but now the state of Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself.
Yes.
And so between moral equivalency and just simply preaching hatred and death to the Jews, it's happening. We're seeing the full spectrum here in the United States right now.
And that's just it. It's just hate. They're creating hate in the hearts. I call it the Pharaoh hatred, because their hearts get hardened for listening to the propaganda, misinformation. And just to tell you that I ran into a situation like that in the district. And we need to understand, because one individual in that is a Muslim doesn't that states that it's okay to murder anybody. It doesn't matter what the Israelites, what happened on the 7th of October. Let's go over here where they're cutting off our resources. Our kids are starving. Okay, but you do understand that that's you force Israel into war with the Hamas terrorist group, and there are Muslims, especially from the Palestinian side, that don't think of Hamas as terrorists. They've been lied to, all right? And all they're seeing is, remember, it's pride with the religion, any religion, it's the pride, and then the national state that they want to stand behind. And that's what's happened there. And this lady pretty much confronted me and said, I'm a Muslim. I've known the person for many years. And of course, I knew she was a Muslim, but she had to state it, and she was stating it in rage because of Israel cutting off the resources so they can get to the hostages, so they can go and annihilate Hamas terrorists. Yeah. And her statement was, Hamas is not a terrorist group. They're Palestinians, which is, they're our people. And in our Quran, it says we can kill. We're allowed to murder. And I'm sitting there as a Jew, as a Christian, and I'm like, seriously? It's like, it's created hate in this person.
So just to set the stage here, this is somebody that you've known for a number of years.
Quiet person.
Quiet person. She knows you're Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
She's Palestinian, Arab?
Yes.
Palestinian. And she knows that you know that. And then after October 7th, she comes and tells you that she's been trained to kill Jews.
Yeah. Her Quran states they can. And there is a verse there.
Oh, yeah. There definitely is.
But we need to understand, just like every other religion, people claim to have the religion. They don't really know about their religion. They're just going by tradition and, and word of mouth from family members and stuff. So that's what you're seeing here, is that the enemy wants to create hate and division and fear into people, and this is what they're doing. So the Muslims now are uniting, and a lot of them out of the lack of knowledge. I have some Afghan girls that are, they're right now pro-Palestinian because, again, of Israel cutting out the resources. I'm like, but wait a minute, it all happened on the 7th of October while they were asleep. They were celebrating Shabbat. It's like, I don't understand what you don't get there. They were forced into war. Yes, it's sad because children are affected.
So even there, whether there's an attack, unprovoked, violent attack, murderous, terrorist attack
in a barbaric way.
In a barbaric way that we all saw it firsthand. Unlike the Ukraine war, where we've got very few actual reports and nobody trusts the reports that are coming out. It's in the Bible it talks about wars and rumors of wars. It seems like this Ukraine, I'm not saying that there's not a war there, but there's more rumors around the war than there is actual war that we saw in Israel. But there's so many aspects to this. But one of the things that's fascinating to me right now is that this is stoked. Somebody in your life that you've been an acquaintance with for a long period of time now is just, quote unquote, activated with hate.
Yeah, and that's what the enemy wants. He wants that hate, because that hate then causes division, which now I have to cut ties, because you say it in love. I love you, but if you're siding with a terrorist group, then I can't, I can't be part of it.
So why did she come up to you out of the blue? Like, did you
No,
run into each other?
no, I was, yeah, in her place of business. So she's been a
Okay.
business owner, and then sold her business, but still working there. So
Okay.
I was there, and like any other time, how's your family? And she locked and loaded. So, and pretty much, I mean, I triggered something in there, and it's the hate, and it went into a rage. Never seen her like that, because she's very soft spoken, very nice lady. I'm like, wow, there was nothing that I could say or do
Yeah.
that would change her, because her mind was set. And even though I said, but remember on the 7th of October, and I mentioned Hamas being terrorists, no, they're not. They are, our people. They're good people. I'm like, no, they've had you. You're talking about you're poor. Your folks are struggling there to feed themselves and all that, because Hamas is taking all the money. You voted in there. I think in 1987 is when they placed themselves to govern over the Palestinians back then. But like anywhere else, a terrorist group, they take in the funds, they take in the resource, and the people. Communism.
Yeah.
Everybody starves, but they don't see that. And I'm like, why are you hating Israel? Because if you go to the southern part of Israel,
Well, let's pause, because you're hitting some concepts there that I really want to delve in on. Um, that just like communism, it's always looking for a scapegoat. And so if there's evil government, it's going to take all the resources, let the people starve, but then they need to find a villain, and they're going to point to the Jews.
yes,
Just like the communists will point to America, or point
yes,
to any kind of free people,
yeah,
or point to the Jews, as
yeah,
they've done in the past.
yeah,
Point to the Christians. Find some kind of villain. And so that's happening in Iran. This is interesting what's happening with Iran too, because Iran has been paying over $100 million per year to Hamas. They've been supporting, and now they can pull the strings and trigger Hamas. And Hamas needs to get instructions from Iran. So this
well,
proxy war is going to escalate, most likely.
Biden administration needs to take accountability. I mean, be accountable for this too, because they gave Iran $6 billion. So right after they gave the $6 billion, I'm sure they went to the Hamas leader. Here's a couple bucks. Go get what you need and infiltrate. The security in Israel, and this is what you see. So it's all, all those players had a play in this,
Yeah.
and it's just.
I'm not sure how far you want to go into this, but there's been hostilities with Iran for a number of years, and Israel can defend itself. The question isn't, hey, first, we support Israel, we stand with Israel.
Sure
That's
do.
one thing. And everybody's, including my competitor, Vern Buchanan, was real happy to post that we stand with Israel, and he signed on some kind of frivolous virtue signaling of support for Israel, which is nice. I'm not going to say it's bad, but what needs to take place is we need to cut funding from Hamas.
Yes.
It's one thing to support Israel, it's another thing to cut funding from Hamas. But that's not what's happening at this administration. This administration put $6 billion to Iran, just like you mentioned. And I don't think it's a coincidence that.
But here's other Arab nations too. In Iran, we do have a large group of Christians there too in Iran,
Yeah.
but they're not the ones that are leading the nation. So it's their communist leaders, their socialist leaders. So,
and that's important to say with the Palestinians too. The people who are living in that area, they're controlled by a radical evil element.
yes.
And so it's not that
Think
they're all evil. We're not
not.
going to fall into the same kind of genocidal hatred
Yeah.
that the enemy is
But
fully
I do
engaged
want to
in.
mention, if you go down to southern Israel, you'll see that they've been allowed the Palestinians to go into Israel and work, earn some money, and go back. It's been like that for years. So it's not like Israel hates them, or as this woman accused them. They said they've been coming in and kidnapping our kids and killing our kids. I'm like, no, they have not. And if that was true, then there's no way they would have been able to come in and work, get a paycheck, and return. Israel is about helping you. They're not the ones that are, um, you know, doing what terrorist groups are doing right now in that area. But also, you look at other Arab nations there. My thing is, okay, Iran has $6 billion. Why didn't they help the Palestinians with their poverty? Okay, why didn't?
That's
No,
right.
instead they gave money for equipment to go and try to annihilate the Jews, because that's what the enemy wants, to annihilate the apple of God's eye, the land, and everything else there, and take it. So it's like people need to know history. I keep saying to folks, they jump in because of what the media says. They jump in at that moment is what they believe, the propaganda. They don't go back and research. People are not critical thinkers anymore. They just want to believe what's out there at that moment. And just like this lady, when I was trying to give the truth, and she kept pointing the finger at me and saying, "You can't believe that. It's not truth. It's fake news." And I'm like, "Okay, but you can believe your sources, but I can't." I said, "My sources, the Hamas that you say are peaceful. They're not." I said, "They're the ones that are videotaping themselves with these atrocities. They themselves are videotaping." And she couldn't say anything. She just went and jumped on to something else.
Pridefully so. Pridefully,
Yeah.
because their goal is terror.
Yeah.
It's the definition of terrorism. They want to inflict terror and have people be afraid of the evil that they are. And then to try to turn around and play the victim, it defies common sense.
Yeah.
So we should put this graphic up that just shows a history of Israel, and this idea of it being a Palestinian state is nonsense, has always been nonsense. And so we'll show the entire history going all the way back to Canaan here for everybody to take a look at and to understand.
So it's not hard to explain the Middle East dispute. One side wants the other dead. The motto of Hamas, the Palestinian rulers of Gaza, is, "We love death as much as the Jews love life." There are 22 Arab states in the world, stretching from the Atlantic Ocean to the Indian Ocean. There is one Jewish state in the world, and it is about the size of New Jersey. In fact, tiny El Salvador is larger than Israel. Finally, think about these two questions. If tomorrow Israel laid down its arms and announced, "We will fight no more," what would happen? And if the Arab countries around Israel laid down their arms and announced, "We will fight no more," what would happen? In the first case, there would be an immediate destruction of the state of Israel and mass murder of its Jewish population. In the second case, there would be peace the next day. As I said at the outset, it is a simple problem to describe. One side wants the other dead, and if it didn't, there would be peace. Please remember this: there has never been a state in the geographic area known as Palestine that was not Jewish. Israel is the third Jewish state to exist in that area. There was never an Arab state, never a Palestinian state, never a Muslim or any other state. That's the issue. Why can't the one Jewish state the size of El Salvador be allowed to exist? That is the Middle East problem.
And that this idea of a Palestinian state, there was a chance for a two-state solution, but it was rejected. And then that started at the beginning of Israel's independence.
And I just wish everybody would do their homework and know when the British were in control and when they were leaving, how they were just sat at a round table, with their leaders say, "Okay, well, Syria, who wasn't Syria at the time, you get to become Syria, and this is the piece of land you will get, and this is," who were they to do that? It's like, really. But anyway, to go back, there's a lot more to this.
And that's what I wanted to get at, because Iran is one thing, and Israel can defend itself. If we can all recognize as the world that Israel has a right to defend itself, it has the right to exist.
Exactly.
Simply put, and it has a right to defend itself. So if we go back, what's interesting to me is Erdogan, what he's going to do in Turkey. That is the escalation point that I think we need to be watching. Iran's one thing. Turkey is another, then what would the United States do in a situation like that? So Turkey and then Russia are two different elements that are worth watching. Everybody's focusing on Iran right now, deservedly so, but I'm watching Turkey.
You're watching Turkey, and you have to watch the other nations. If people will open their Bibles, if they got cobwebs on them, I say clean it out and get in there, because those prophecies are unfolding before us. They're they're right there, and you're going to see the key players at that last war, Armageddon. And it's not time. I'm not saying it's time now, but you're seeing the beginnings of those key players um, rising up in this situation. And yes, Turkey is one who has kind of been on our side for a while, but right now they're pro-Palestine themselves. Again, it's that tie of the religion, and just that whole people group is what I want to say. Instead of saying, gosh, this is not right, let's stand on the right side here. Let's bring peace in this area. They're not looking for peace. They really are not. The enemy never looks for peace. All right. They want that division. They want all of that. And it's sad because, like I said, it all comes down to what's happened there. You would think here we are, ocean apart, nations apart, and it's hit home here. Never did I imagine coming back from war, seeing what I'm seeing in the United States, and especially my district, where because of that incident, the groups have risen up in the district. The Palestinians gathering and coming against the Jews in the district. So we've had rallies and protests, but also that incident hasn't just hit here. I mean, you've seen it happening in Germany. You see. I mean, was it in Russia where they went into the airport? They heard a flight of Jews were coming in, and imagine you're flying into a nation and you sit there and you hear the news like, we can't get off this dang flight because they're coming to kill us, and you're not prepared.
And it's here at universities, Jewish students hiding
exactly,
and were locked in.
Yeah.
Where was that? Well, I was in California, I believe.
How is that right? How is that happening in our nation? It's happening here, and he's creating havoc in the district. I was like, looking around, I'm like, I was at war. I shouldn't be sitting here now having to carry my concealed weapon everywhere I go, because I don't feel safe anymore. I don't feel safe here, and that shouldn't be happening. And these rallies that just recently happened, I think it's been the last few Saturdays. The last one was, I think, a larger group. They were expecting 3,000. I don't know how many actually came out. Business owners were surprised that day and were closing out because they feared. Come on. Why should they? They were trying to earn their bucks that day. We're already in inflation. So now it's hitting the businesses where they're having these rallies and protests. They can't even work. They were going out to the streets. Now, how is this considered peaceful, where they're banging on your car as you're traveling through?
Well, it's mostly peaceful. That's a joke.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that. And I do want to tie this back to Black Lives Matter protest, because it's the same kind of mindset of Black Lives Matter protest.
They're behind it too. They're all of them.
It's the same Marxist element it's agitation. They're trying to agitate, find some kind of grievance, maximize the grievance to tear down this beautiful country that we live in.
Exactly.
And that's what's happened with Black Lives Matter. And that was scary. People were running around, had a license to hate and to act on that hate.
Yes.
And they called it mostly peaceful protests. These are not mostly peaceful protests.
They're not.
Now what's happening is now at our southern border, and I'm headed to the border later this week. I'm going to do a 3-state tour from Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas to report back to the people here in the district what's happening at the border. But I can tell you already what's happening is they ran out of people from the Black Lives Matter. It kind of ran its course. People are like, no, this doesn't feel right. There's enough people in leadership of Black Lives Matter that said, this has moved to a different level. We're bringing in Antifa into this, and we're trying to cause as much damage as possible and hurt people. No, there's enough people that backed out of the Black Lives Matter. That was a part of the Black exit. Now they need new recruits. So what a great opportunity with quote unquote refugees and this cause du jour of agitation, and let's just bring everybody through this open border, the southern border, and let's bring them in, let's activate them, and let's have more mostly peaceful protests.
Let me tell you what irks me is that I get a visit from Homeland Security. All right, it was like, why are you at my house? Right?
Yeah.
We all know. I mean, people know me. I'm coming, from the Middle East. There are Iraqis, there are Afghans that had special immigration visa. They had to apply, and there are people that work for us for a year. I mean, with me for a year, but with other commanders in the area of operations, and saved a lot of American lives. We know that. So yes, they wanted to flee there so they wouldn't get killed by the terrorist groups there. And so everything was legal. Everything was legal, proper, documentation, everything, everybody signing off, State Department approving. They're the ones that approve and allow them to come in. But you've got a southern border, this administration.
So let me pause you right there. So you had somebody from Homeland Security
Knock on my door.
knock on your door unannounced. It's not like your former CEO called and said, "Hey, they're just
coming
asking."
over.
Just
Let's have a meeting.
a cold knock on the door.
Yeah.
They said,
I'm on the radar.
How'd you even know that they were Homeland Security and not somebody else?
The first time they came, they stated they were, but they didn't present a badge or and their card. My son-in-law's the one that answered the door. I wasn't home.
Yeah.
And he asked, "What do you want with her?" "Well, we can't discuss." I'm like, "Really?" So the thing is, it's like I've been telling people since a couple of years back, it's at our back door. Well, guess what? It's on my front porch.
Yeah.
It's like, this is where we're at. It's like they're knocking on your front porch. And I'm like, government, why are you at my door? First, I'm a conservative. I've been on the right side. I've always done the right things. I served this country for 28 years. Why are you knocking on my front door? All right, well, you're on some visas here. And I'm like, okay, so I'm on some visas here. And I actually told the agents, I don't understand. They said, why aren't you at the southern border stopping all those illegals that came here? Because these guys, some of them that they presented to me were illegal. One was my interpreter, approved by the State Department, because there's a long process before they get to come here to get approved. And they don't make it, they never made it easy, and still don't make it easy. But you open the border, and our terrorists are here. Terrorist cells in my district. Because I talked to the police department last year, and they said, yeah, the cells are here. They just haven't violated. They haven't, violated anything for us to do anything. Yeah, but guess what? They're out probably at the mosque, already indoctrinating everybody, giving them misinformation because it's that agenda. Don't think they're not behind these rallies. They know who to select. They'll probably sit at those mosque meetings like this. Yeah, that's a weak one right there. Let me start feeding him propaganda. Let me start feeding him or her on either side or whatever. And here's a couple bucks. I know you need some help here and there. They befriend them, and then they indoctrinate them where they lead most of these rallies. I truly believe that's my perception, only coming from war and saw how it works. All right, so I've got the University of Southern Florida, which is very heavy Democratic area.
Yeah.
It's very hard. And the district I'm running in is very Democratic. And my opponent's been in there. I think this is her, I believe it's her last term. And I did run against her last year. It was my first time and did get my 46%. And I thought I would be done. But when God calls you until he tells you to quit, you can't quit. And gave her a run for her money. And I remember when I first ran, they said, "You're the underdog." This is a newspaper. I'm like, yeah, be careful. They thought the same about King David. It's like, move out of my way because you don't know who I am. I'm coming hard and I'm coming strong. But the thing is, USF area.
Yeah.
And I know that you've had experience with working in the university, or yes.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I mean, I plan these young people have been indoctrinated. Marxism. If you do the study. All right, go back and read, because their whole intent was to come through the schools, get into the young minds, the young hearts. And this is what they do. They feed them while parents are thinking they're going to college, they're going to Ivy League school. My opponent's from an Ivy League Ivy League school. Those are the ones you don't want to vote in office. You
Yeah.
don't want them. All right. You want your grassroots folks, ones that served, all
Yeah.
right, already. But Ivy League, that's where the Marxism went through. You know, those intellect minds is what they call it, but they're not. They've been indoctrinated.
Yeah.
And this is what they're bringing into our citizens all over the United States. Their liberal ways, their Marxist ways. It's like, no. It's like, we've got to stop that. And people need to start getting smart and doing their own homework,
Yeah.
and do the research on every candidate, and not, you know, listen to lip service,
Yeah.
or a lot of them come into office. I mean, our campaign says, um, do nothing, Driscoll, because she hasn't done anything. And when 7th October happened in Israel, where was she? Shopping, all right? They at some social event, and nothing about what happened out there. I stand for Israel, not only because I have Jewish blood, because it's the right thing to do. It's like we saw what terrorism did that day to a nation that was at peace. You know, they're always on alert, as we say in the military, but they were peace. They were on Shabbat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just, it's here. And like
Yeah.
I said, and I like to hear from you, your experience at the university.
Yeah. Well, first, I'm Messianic Jewish also, and have a heart for Israel. But it's not even about the connection that I feel with Israel. It's really good and evil. It's it's truth and deception that's happening there. But as far as the university's situation goes, I was tasked to be a trustee at New College of Florida, which was one of the top 10 most liberal universities in the nation. And Ron DeSantis decided to put 6 of us in as trustees, and as a trustee, I met with the president. And the first thing that we talked about was what's happening here. And she agreed that it was way too far to the left. They were pushing this anti-Christian message, basically. She said that she knows that Christians don't feel welcome there. She knew that I was coming at it from a Christian standpoint, and I think she was trying to appease me and tell me that she was a part of the solution. But then she drew a line in the sand, and she said, "But I will not say that we're indoctrinating students." And so that's when, at that point, I was like, okay, she's not the right leader to take us where we need to go. We need somebody who can understand where we are and where we need to go, and understand that at the university level, it's been indoctrination. It's been indoctrination of everything driving to oppressor and oppressed, trying to divide and have this binary view of every individual, not viewing individuals as imago Dei, made in the image of God with infinite value, but instead you're either an oppressor or you're oppressed. And that drives everything else, from the DEI that was abolished to the gender studies, which is being abolished. All these things are indoctrinating. And it's complicated, comprehensive, and it is not new. This goes all the way back to Marx, and has just taken on different elements. But what we're seeing is the late stages of this war, and it's a cultural war,
Yes.
and it's now becoming a physical war. Now, I wouldn't even say now. It's boiled up to a physical war at different parts around the world at different times. But we're starting to see it now here.
And you know what's sad, Eddie, is that at these universities, or even any organizations that are standing for Palestine, and which actually, like, if they really see, it's not, again, against the Palestinians, against Hamas terrorists, the terrorist group.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of Christians. A lot of Christians that I'm like, seriously? It's
Yeah.
like, you must not know history here. You must not know what's really going on. So it's people, just like, you know, we say
Yeah.
rhinos in the Republican Club. You got Christianese playing, I'm a Christian, and I feel so bad for you, because they bought into the indoctrination. They bought into these lies, this misinformation, and without doing their own homework.
Well, there's even the last podcast we talked, and I mentioned liberation theology. I wrote a Substack on liberation theology, and that is basically this syncretic view of you can be a Marxist and you can be a Christian at the same time. And if you want to hold on both with this idea of this bastardization of the term love and what love means, of not holding people accountable and just affirming everything, having no discernment whatsoever, you can do that through liberation theology. And actually, Reverend Jeremiah Wright was one of the biggest proponents of liberation theology, but it's not even new. It's been around for a long period of time, but there's a lot of churches that are leaning towards or fully on board with this liberation theology, which is a dangerous theology. It gives people the excuse to hate under the guise of love.
You know, and you mentioned church leaders, but we're at a time now that if these church leaders don't stand up and speak about these current issues, because the churches back then, okay, we're speaking the news of the day, and today a lot of them don't, because they don't want to what they see as engaging with the government or afraid of the government. Well, the government doesn't get to overreach, okay? They don't get to do what they're doing right now.
That's
and this
right.
is because people have been so ignorant for so long that they want a quick solution, that they go, government, I need your help.
Yeah.
And instead of government saying, no, you've got to go to your governor, you've got to go to your state attorney, you got to go to your sheriff. But they want to jump from here in the military. You know, we can't do that. We don't jump from here to the general. We've got a chain of command. Well, same in the civilian world. I mean, there's other avenues, but they want to jump. And of course, the federal government wants that because they want control over the people.
Yeah.
And especially in an administration like we have right now.
But the highest level of command in all of the government is the Constitution. We are a constitutional republic of democratically elected officials.
Yes.
In that order, Constitution number 1.
Yes.
And so it's a limiting document. It's not an enabling document, so that we can begin to create a state religion of secularism, which is what's happened today.
And you've seen with this administration, and even with people that it started with the Obama administration, and people, you know, worshiping him only because of his color, and a lot of them wanted him in because of that. And my thing is that our Constitution is being stripped away if people are not careful. It's like little pieces are being stripped like this, because of the past two administrations. Well, not the Trump, but we're talking about Obama and Biden administration. And people need to wake up, because that piece of document is what we have to fight for our rights.
That's right. And Thomas Sowell understood it very well. And he said, if we don't protect the Constitution, we can't expect the Constitution to protect us. So we've got to understand what it stands for, what it means, and protect it.
Yeah, and they have to know what it means, because if you've seen in communist and socialist nations, I mean, being a plans officer over at the Pentagon Joint Staff, I mean, Bolivia was under me. You know, I even had Nicaragua. All right, and if you notice, when those communist leaders take over, their constitution go out the door. They make up their own rules as they go along. Oh, I don't like that. I'm only supposed to be in office 2 years. No, let's make that 10. No, 20 lifetime. All right. This is what happens, and we have that constitution, and people need to understand it and understand that our forefathers wrote this and put it in place so that we wouldn't be governed by a government full of tyrannical leaders.
Yeah.
And this is what we're seeing right now if we're not careful. So I would say everybody, wake up, do your homework, presidential election year next year, and they really got to get on board and know their stuff, and stop going in and just voting for whatever or whoever because of you know, their religion or their color or you know,
single issue voters.
I mean, they
pick
got
one or we need to educate the whole mass of the people, because they're our last defense against tyranny, and so that requires all of us. So as we're talking about all the negative things that are happening in the world, I do want to end with hope, because it's people like you. And as I've been on the campaign trail, more and more people I've found are enthusiastic, and they're fed up but enthusiastic, and they understand what a great country we have, and they understand the Constitution and the freedoms that we have, and they hold them dearly. And I'm seeing more and more people rally around that, even as we're being, as this war is coming at us, this psyop war of trying to get us bewildered, cynical, and depressed and hopeless. There is hope, and there's more and more of you and I and other people that are out there that are willing to fight for this nation and fight for our freedoms.
Yeah.
So I've been greatly encouraged by people that I've been talking to lately, and I know you have been too, but I want to share that with everybody else,
Yeah.
that there is hope and that change is coming, and this is a great nation, and this nation will never be a socialist, never be a communist nation. It just simply won't happen. The West is there's too much of a significance, spiritual DNA of the West that we have here for it to ever happen.
And I like that you declare those words over our nation, and we need to declare it more. It's like, don't, we got to keep our eyes off of fear,
Yes.
off of the media, because
Yeah.
that's what they're paid to do, is to instill fear into the people and cause division, all that. And so we need to declare more words, like you said. We will not be a nation like this. We will not. We declare, you know, an awakening here. We declare a revival here. You know, bring God back into the picture, back into the schools. You can see prayer back in the schools.
Yeah.
If you haven't signed a petition, get into your elections office and ask for a petition there and sign it, so we can get this on the ballot next year. Because without God, you know, this nation won't exist.
Yeah.
And we are founded on biblical principles, and we need to keep them there. But I want to bring the past leaders like Trump. We've got Governor DeSantis. It's like, I know when I stood with Trump, I lost a lot of friends, especially females. You know what he did? I'm like, okay, remember the line that Jesus drew on the sand? It's like, if you haven't sinned, go ahead and cross over, right?
Yeah.
So this is my thing. It's like, yeah, but let's look at like you're saying, the good parts about him. He woke up America.
Yeah.
He woke us, and I was getting it from Christian folks that had scriptures on their t-shirts saying how they hated Trump, Trump this, Trump that. He woke us up. I don't like what he did in the past either.
Yeah.
But you know, everybody gets a second chance. And if you don't know, he is a believer now.
Yeah.
He is a Jew, you know, he has Jewish roots, but he actually, and I'm not, you know, saying that that's why I'm okay with him. No, it's because he did the right thing, and he shook up America, opened everybody's eyes, and especially, remember, with the fake media. It's like if people began to see everything differently. And if they don't know what AI is, they better do their homework, because that's what's, you know, they're perfecting that. So if you're believing in your fake media, there's more to come with the AI. You need to be able to discern and be able to really pull it apart when you're looking at something on the television. Nothing about smart TV is smartphones. There's nothing smart about that. That is, you know, a way that I can see the Antichrist in the long run, you know, tracking you. I mean, look at our cars right now. I can get in it and not, you know, I'm going to Publix and it'll take me, say, before I even start the car, it's going to take you so many minutes to get there. How did you know? All right. This is what's happening. Yes, you laugh about it. I do too, because I already know, you know, the enemy is what they're doing behind scenes. And we have to understand they are the elites that you don't even know their name. You know, just a few people, the ones that are trying to control our folks. And we know, as a nation and as American citizens, we've got to be bolder than that. We've got to be wiser than that. We've got to, like, really be rooted and grounded in the Word and be so connected to God that when that day comes, that they're not caught off guard. And they've got to, you know, everybody has a calling. My thing is, stop talking about it, stop criticizing, get off your rear ends, and, you know, do something about it.
So thank you so much for spending time
Thank you for having
with me here.
Yeah,
It's
thank
been
you.
great, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of each other on
Thank
the
you.
campaign trail as we have
Yes.
over the last few weeks.
Yes. I hope people will find chrisannhall.com, because that's where I learn most of my government information.
Okay.
I mean, this is a start for you. Look her up. She's got a lot of videos out there, and it's an eye opener, and it'll get you to a level that you didn't think you would be at, knowing how everything works with the Constitution and the government here. Chris Ann Hall with a K, she always says. chrisannhall.com.
chrisannhall.com.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for
You're
coming.
welcome. Thank you.